disclose the facts as they are. I mean, whether they're dead or alive, I'm going to tell the same story because that's my job, is to get to the truth of the matter. My name is Greg Kading. I retired from the LAPD.
After years of silence, fresh charges finally dropped in the Tupac Shakur situation. And when those documents hit the public, they had some heavy names attached. Snoop Dogg's involvement became a major talking point. Social media went crazy when people started reading through everything, with folks pointing out how Snoop allegedly had the power to change the outcome that night. According to statements from Faison Love buried in these 2-decade-old documents, there was a real chance to prevent what went down, and Snoop was supposedly in position to make that happen. The whole thing got people questioning what really could have been different if certain moves were made back then. The hip-hop community had been demanding answers for literally decades at this point, and now that information was finally surfacing, it hit different. Fans who grew up listening to Pac's music felt betrayed all over again, wondering why it took this long for the truth to come out. The timing of these revelations raised even more eyebrows, making people wonder what else might still be hidden. This wasn't just about solving a cold case anymore. It became about accountability and understanding the real dynamics that were playing out behind the scenes during one of rap's darkest periods. The streets had their theories for years, but seeing it spelled out in official paperwork changed the whole conversation.
I always felt when Pac died, it was because Snoop could have stopped that whole thing. I mean, because like I said, Snoop was a Crip. Pac offended some Crips. Doing some game, some dumb, really. It was a whole, set off a whole chain of events. You know, in LA don't get mad, they get even. So, you want a real Pac story? That's my Pac story. As Pac would be alive today if he had stayed allies with Snoop and not cross Snoop.
Police records started painting a wild picture when Russell Poole's investigation notes surfaced, pointing fingers in unexpected directions. The detective had his own theory brewing. He believed Suge Knight orchestrated the whole thing to stop Tupac from leaving Death Row Records, then cleverly shifted blame toward the Crips to keep investigators chasing ghosts. What made this even messier was how they allegedly planned to use Snoop Dogg as their scapegoat, considering his status as one of the most recognizable Crip-affiliated figures in the industry. That connection alone gave them a convenient narrative to push. Here's where things get really twisted though. Snoop was actually scheduled to roll with Tupac that fatal night in Vegas, but somehow ended up being a no-show. Investigators couldn't shake the feeling that something about his absence didn't add up right. You gotta understand the context. Back in those days, Snoop wasn't the lovable mainstream figure he is today. He was still deeply connected to street politics and had his ear to the ground in ways most people didn't realize. Some folks started suggesting maybe he heard whispers through his Crip connections about what was being planned for Pac and strategically kept his distance that night. The plot thickened even more when old interviews resurfaced showing Snoop talking about how he genuinely believed Tupac had turned against him right before everything went down. Whether that was real tension or just perception, it added another layer to an already complicated situation. The streets were watching, and the more these details leaked, the more questions people had about who really knew what and when they knew it. Decades later, we're still piecing together a puzzle that probably has way more pieces than anyone wants to admit.
Say a week before he died, we was best of friends. 2 days before he died, I don't think he liked me.
Why?
Because we was in New York, and it happened. New York, they shot at me and did all kind of shit to me, like just the worst you could think of. And I forgave him. And went and did an interview and was asked, how do I feel about Puffy and Big? And I was like, I like it. I want to do some music with him. And that just rubbed Cuz the wrong way. Like, tried to kill me, how that you, and you talking about you want to do a song with him? I wasn't thinking about his emotions. I was thinking about the way I felt at the time. I wasn't into no controversy. I liked his music. They was our friends. We was all friends at one point. This video footage of all of us hanging out.
Sean Combs, better known as Diddy, had his own complicated chapter in this whole saga that people often overlook. When the documentary started breaking down his potential involvement, they highlighted something that went beyond just East Coast versus West Coast beef. The filmmakers suggested Diddy harbored a deep-seated jealousy toward Tupac, wanting to capture that same raw authenticity and cultural impact that Pac naturally possessed. It wasn't just about music sales or chart positions. It was about presence, respect, and influence. People who watched closely started connecting dots that painted an uncomfortable picture. Diddy had the business mind and the polish, sure, but Tupac had something money couldn't buy: genuine street credibility mixed with artistic depth that resonated across every demographic. That combination made Pac untouchable in ways that clearly ate at certain industry figures. The documentary didn't hold back when exploring this dynamic, showing how Diddy's envy might have played into bigger decisions being made behind closed doors. What made this revelation hit harder was understanding the culture of that era. Hip-hop was still defining itself, and being seen as authentic versus manufactured could make or break your entire legacy. Diddy represented the corporate, calculated side of the game, while Tupac embodied raw emotion and street truth. That fundamental difference created tension that apparently went way deeper than most people realized at the time. Looking back now with all these documents and testimonies surfacing, you start seeing how personal rivalries mixed with business interests created a dangerous situation that nobody could control once it got rolling.
Pac was a shining example of everything that Diddy wanted to be, and he was that naturally. He was charismatic, he was sought after, desired, he was very well liked and a naturally likable person. He was charming, he actually had intrinsic talent, he was a star. He was what Diddy tried to force his way into becoming. Diddy, through force, through manipulation, through fear-mongering, tried to become loved and adored and liked. But all he could manage is like a twisted clone of that he was able to garner through fear. But back to my original point, he thought he triumphed over Tupac by when actually what he did was make Tupac immortal. And by Diddy continuing to live and earn more wealth and, in his mind, earn more adoration, he thought he triumphed. He thought he won overall.
The paper trail connecting Sean Combs to Tupac's situation goes deeper than most people initially thought. 50 Cent recently dropped hints that the story's far from finished, mentioning how there's additional footage that didn't even make it into the Netflix special that's supposedly headed to YouTube soon. This unreleased material allegedly covers some personal territory that adds a whole different dimension to the rivalry, specifically involving Diddy's complicated history with Sarah Chapman, who happens to be the mother of his daughter Chance Combs, born back in 2006. Here's the wild part that investigators caught on to. Sarah Chapman had her own history with Tupac Shakur, dating back to 1995 when they were linked together. Detectives digging through old records stumbled across photographs from November 18, 1995, showing Tupac and Sarah together, and apparently this discovery opened up a whole new angle to explore. According to people close to the situation, Diddy had serious feelings for Sarah, allegedly calling her his ideal woman, and the one he'd been searching for. So when Tupac entered the picture, it created personal friction that went way beyond industry competition. The jealousy factor became impossible to ignore once all these pieces started fitting together. We're talking about a man who already felt overshadowed by Tupac's influence and respect in the culture. Now watching him connect with someone he considered his dream girl. That kind of situation breeds resentment that doesn't just disappear overnight. Some investigators theorize this personal angle might have been the actual catalyst that pushed things from competitive tension into something far more dangerous, potentially explaining the timing of certain events that followed. The streets always knew beef could get personal, but this was on another level entirely. That initial plan apparently didn't go the way it was supposed to, leaving everyone involved scrambling for what came next. When the legal proceedings started heating up around Sean Combs, documents revealed details about a second, more calculated approach to the situation. A former law enforcement officer came forward with explosive claims, stating that Diddy allegedly put up $1 million to have Tupac eliminated. The aftermath supposedly triggered a chain reaction, with Suge Knight responding by orchestrating the hit on Biggie Smalls in retaliation, creating a cycle of violence that forever changed hip-hop. The name Dwayne Keith Davis, better known as Keefy D, kept surfacing throughout these investigations as the alleged middleman who made everything happen. According to testimony and reports, Diddy didn't handle the logistics himself. He brought in Keefe D to coordinate everything and recruit the people who would actually carry out the operation. That's exactly the role Keefe D allegedly fulfilled, acting as the organizer while keeping distance between the person funding it and those pulling triggers. Years down the line, Keefe D found himself in an interrogation room facing federal investigators who weren't letting him walk away without answers. During those sessions, he reportedly confirmed meeting with Diddy on multiple occasions, essentially admitting he was the architect behind the entire operation. These weren't casual encounters either. They were strategic planning sessions that laid out how everything would go down. The feds had been building this case brick by brick, and when Keefe D started talking, it validated suspicions that had been floating around for decades. The streets always had their version of events, but hearing it come from someone directly involved changed everything about how people understood that era's violence.
All four of those occasions, there's San Diego, Anaheim, Irvine, and Vegas. Which ones do you actually talk to Puffy at?
Every one.
Every one of them. Which of those four is it when you talk to him about Tupac?
It was really about both of them. Either one. It was
Tupac and Suge, you mean?
Yeah.
Once all this information hit the streets and went public, people started looking at Sean Combs through a completely different lens. Everything about his past got put under a microscope. Business dealings, relationships, feuds, all of it became fair game for re-examination. Internet detectives went into overdrive, pulling up old clips and interviews trying to find anything that might have been missed the first time around. His entire timeline got scrutinized in ways that made even his biggest supporters start asking uncomfortable questions about what he might actually be capable of doing. The tension reached a breaking point when an interviewer decided to address the elephant in the room directly during a sit-down conversation. The moment that topic came up, you could feel the entire energy shift. Diddy's usual smooth, confident demeanor cracked as he tried navigating questions he clearly wasn't prepared to handle in that setting. The interviewer wasn't backing down though, pressing for clarity on allegations that had been swirling for years but were now getting official attention. What made it particularly uncomfortable was watching someone who'd spent decades controlling his narrative suddenly lose that control in real time. The silence between questions stretched longer than normal. His responses became more calculated and defensive, and everyone watching could sense something was off. This wasn't the polished media personality people were used to seeing. This was someone genuinely rattled by questions he couldn't charm his way out of. The clip went viral immediately, with people analyzing every facial expression and pause, trying to read between the lines of what wasn't being said directly.
It was this documentary that claimed, which we know wasn't true.
Yeah, check this out. We don't talk about things that are nonsense. We don't even entertain nonsense, my brother. So we're not even going to go there, with all due respect, but I appreciate you as a journalist asking. Thank you.
Because you listen, 7 years ago, I'd have been like, yo, did you hire somebody? But no, you do it like a journalist.
Yeah, no, I mean, we wouldn't even get into nonsense like that. You know what I'm saying? It's nonsense.
Which we never believed, by the way.
Yeah, thank you.
The whole situation keeps evolving as more people come forward with their own pieces of the story. Social media has become a battleground where everyone's got an opinion about who knew what and when they knew it. Old associates are getting interviewed left and right, some confirming details while others are trying to distance themselves from the whole era. The culture's demanding accountability in ways that weren't possible back in the 90s when everything first went down. What's really interesting is how younger generations are discovering this history for the first time through these new revelations. They're going back and listening to the music with completely different contexts, picking up on lyrics and tensions that flew over people's heads decades ago. The documentaries keep dropping, each one claiming to have the real story. But somehow, there's always another layer that gets peeled back just when you think you've heard everything. Meanwhile, the legal system is still grinding through cases that have been cold for 20+ years, and every court date brings new information that contradicts or confirms what people thought they knew. Lawyers are filing motions, witnesses are being called, and the hip-hop community is watching every single move like it's the most important trial in music history. Some folks are calling for complete transparency, wanting every document and testimony released so the public can finally understand what really happened during one of the darkest chapters in rap. Others think some secrets should stay buried, arguing that reopening these wounds only causes more pain for families who've spent decades trying to heal and move forward with their lives.
He's charged in one of the most notorious cold case In modern American history, and this morning, the man known as Keefe D is breaking his silence from behind bars. Nearly 30 years ago, became one of the nation's most notorious unsolved.
Hey Keith, Metro Police, come over here.
Then in 2023, a breakthrough when prosecutors charged this man with ordering the hit, the only person arrested for Shakur's, who now tells ABC News authorities have the wrong man.
I'm innocent.
When Las Vegas Police Department dropped those Tupac files, the whole story changed. Turns out the people closest to him might have been plotting the whole time. People online couldn't believe what they were seeing. One person posted how the documents got them rethinking everything they thought they knew. The paperwork showed Snoop Dogg apparently had advance warning about the attack coming. Then there's Suge Knight, who supposedly wanted Tupac eliminated before he could break free from the label. And the wildest part, Sean Diddy Combs allegedly funded the entire operation. The post ended saying Tupac desperately needed a different circle around him, which lines up perfectly with something his own pops talked about in a sit-down. Tupac's biological father admitted that if he'd stepped up and been present in his son's life, things would have ended differently. His son would still be here today. The reason? Tupac never would have put his trust in Suge Knight, but with his real father absent from the picture, he ended up seeing Suge as that father figure he was missing. And according to the interview, that relationship led to all his earnings being drained.
Suge Knight. Right. You know, this motherfucker acted so bad. I gotta live the rest of my life realizing that maybe if I was a better father, he might not have gotten that situation. He might have had enough wisdom to know that this motherfucker ain't but a scoundrel. But he looked up to him like a father. Then to find out a year, 8 months later, that he's cheating him out of all of his money. That's the final betrayal.
The media coverage started picking up steam with headlines about how the fresh investigation into Tupac Shakur's death was uncovering additional suspects and previously hidden evidence. Suge Knight's name kept surfacing throughout the newly released documents. Investigators pointed out something strange from the beginning. Suge's version of events never quite added up, right? The biggest question everyone's asking, where was security that fatal night? That was literally Suge Knight's whole responsibility, keeping Tupac protected. But here's where it gets even stranger. After the shooting, Suge talked about leaving the medical facility saying things were looking good, claiming he and Tupac were in good spirits, cracking jokes together. He couldn't understand how someone's condition could flip that drastically, from stable to critical. His exact words described how when he walked out of that hospital, everything seemed fine between him and Pac. Laughing it up like nothing was wrong made it sound impossible for someone's situation to deteriorate that severely after appearing totally fine.
When I left that hospital, me and Pac was laughing and joking. So I don't see how somebody can turn from doing well to doing bad.
So you seriously think that he might still be alive?
But here's where Suge's whole narrative collapses. Medical records showed Tupac Shakur wasn't even responsive when paramedics brought him in. The man was deep in a coma. So explain how you're having a lighthearted conversation with someone who can't even open their eyes? The dots connect in a darker way once you examine what investigators gathered on Sean Diddy Combs. According to federal agents, he masterminded the entire operation from start to finish, then manipulated people close to Tupac into feeding false stories to reporters. The plan worked flawlessly. Authorities spent 3 decades chasing dead ends. The evidence they compiled by 2026 reads like pure fiction. The story took another turn when 50 Cent dropped a bombshell announcement. His Netflix documentary on Diddy had leftover footage that never aired, and he's releasing it all on YouTube. Among the unused material, details about Diddy fathering a child with someone from Tupac's past. Sarah Chapman, who had a relationship with Tupac during 1995, ended up having Diddy's daughter Chance Combs. When you connect these dots, a disturbing picture forms. Diddy's motivation went beyond just removing Tupac from the equation. He was trying to step into his entire life and legacy.
Tupac was a shining example of everything that Diddy wanted to be, and he was that naturally. He was charismatic, he was sought after, desired, he was very well liked and a naturally likable person. He was charming, he actually had intrinsic talent, he was a star. He was what Diddy tried to force his way into becoming. Diddy, through force, through manipulation, through fear-mongering, tried to become loved and adored and liked, but all he could manage is like a twisted clone of that he was able to garner through fear. But back to my original point, he thought he triumphed over Tupac by when actually what he did was make Tupac immortal. And by Diddy continuing to live and earn more wealth and, in his mind, earn more adoration, he thought he triumphed.
This is where everything starts getting twisted. According to documents in the Tupac files, photographers captured images of Tupac Shakur with Sarah Chapman on November 18, 1995. Fast forward a decade, and Diddy is calling Sarah his ideal woman, describing her as everything he ever wanted. That means back in 1995, when Tupac was involved with her, Diddy wasn't happy about it. Investigators believe this jealousy sparked his initial move against Tupac, but law enforcement buried that incident completely. When that first plan fell through, Diddy apparently wasn't done. Years later, during legal proceedings against Diddy, explosive testimony came out. A former cop from the LAPD claimed Diddy dropped $1 million to have Tupac eliminated. The file suggests Suge Knight responded by ordering a hit on the notorious B.I.G. The operation in Las Vegas allegedly involved Diddy bringing in Keith D to handle the job. Keith D walked around free for 2 decades before authorities finally brought him in. During questioning, he had no clue cameras were rolling. That's when he started talking, laying out how Diddy was running the whole show from behind the scenes. The confession basically confirmed what investigators suspected all along about who orchestrated everything.
All 4 of those occasions are San Diego, Anaheim, Irvine, and Vegas. Which ones do you actually talk to Puffy at?
Every one.
Every one of them. Which of those 4 is it when you talk to him about Tupac?
It was really about both of them. Either one. It was
Tupac and Suge, you mean?
Yeah.
Once authorities had Diddy locked in as the mastermind behind everything, they started digging through his past media appearances. Specifically, they wanted to analyze any moments where Tupac's name came up during conversations, watching how Diddy reacted physically. Investigators eventually stumbled on this super uncomfortable sit-down from the Breakfast Club that raised all kinds of red flags.
It was this documentary that claimed, which we know wasn't true.
Yeah, check this out. We don't talk about things that are nonsense. We don't even entertain nonsense, my brother. So we're not even going to go there, with all due respect, but I appreciate you as a journalist asking. Thank you.
Because you listen, 7 years ago, I'd have been like, yo, did you hide my Tupac? But no, you do it like a journalist.
Yeah, no, I mean, we wouldn't even get into nonsense like that. You know what I'm saying? It's nonsense.
Which we never believed, by the way.
Yeah.
But here's where the Tupac files take a seriously bizarre turn. Russell Poole, one of the detectives on the case, had a different theory altogether. He suspected Suge Knight orchestrated Tupac Shakur's death to prevent him from breaking away from the record label. Then Suge allegedly pinned everything on rival gang members to send investigators chasing false leads. That theory sparked a crucial question: which high-profile crip would Suge Knight set up like that? Turns out the answer was hiding in plain sight: Snoop Dogg. Federal agents started pulling apart everything related to Snoop, and what they uncovered was pretty shocking. Buried in the files, investigators flagged a specific interview where Snoop admitted something nobody really paid attention to: the time. He was actually scheduled to ride in that BMW alongside Tupac the night everything went down. Think about the implications of that for a second. Snoop Dogg talked about how he was meant to be sitting in that car, but things changed at the last second and he ended up not going. Investigators connected this to tension that erupted between him, Tupac Shakur, and Suge Knight just days earlier. Suge's setup was so convincing that it had people genuinely suspicious of Snoop's role in everything. One post that went viral basically said everyone's ignoring how Snoop might have prevented the whole tragedy. The person wrote about how these newly released documents are painful to read, knowing Tupac could still be here. The prevailing theory? Back when Snoop was deeply connected to street networks 2 decades ago, word reached him that Tupac was marked for that specific night. That's supposedly why he bailed on riding in the BMW. Federal investigators even dug up footage where Snoop discussed his relationship with Tupac right before everything happened. He admitted that just 48 hours before the shooting, something felt off between them. In his words, it seemed like Tupac genuinely couldn't stand him anymore. That detail adds another piece to the puzzle of why he wasn't in that car when bullets started flying. With 3 major players in hip-hop now potentially linked to Tupac Shakur's death, investigators focused on breaking down exactly what went down that fatal night. The evidence files laid out a clear timeline. September 7, 1996, Tupac was rolling through Las Vegas alongside Suge Knight, who ran his label at the time. Their destination was the MGM Grand to catch Mike Tyson fight. Once the match wrapped up, they were posted in the hotel lobby when they clocked someone they had serious problems with. Security stepped in and shut down the confrontation between Suge, Tupac Shakur, and their enemy. After that, both of them bounced back to where they were staying to switch up their outfits before planning to hit up a nightclub around 11 p.m.
They left their spot and hopped into the BMW, heading toward one of Suge Knight's own venues, but they were moving reckless the whole ride there, bass thumping so loud you could probably hear it blocks away, hollering at every woman they passed on the sidewalk, straight up drawing all kinds of attention to themselves in the city.
About Tupac's concert at the Club 662. Members, including Orlando and Keith D, jumped in their white Cadillac and started cruising the strip looking for the offender. Before long, they finally spotted Tupac's caravan. At the intersection of East Flamingo Boulevard and Koval Lane, the white Cadillac pulled alongside the black BMW with Suge on the driver and Tupac on the passenger seats.
What's becoming increasingly clear from these files is how much the spotlight keeps swinging back to Suge Knight. Every angle investigators explore seems to circle right back to him, and the pattern's getting harder to ignore. Start with the basics. His entire business model depended on keeping Tupac Shakur locked into Death Row Records. Financial documents show Tupac was the label's biggest moneymaker by a massive margin, generating millions while Suge controlled everything. But here's the problem. Tupac was planning his exit strategy, talking openly about starting his own label and taking full ownership of his music. That would have financially destroyed Suge overnight. Then there's the security situation that never made sense from day one. Suge's literal job was protecting his artists, especially his most valuable one. Yet somehow on that specific night in Las Vegas, there wasn't a single bodyguard riding with them, no security detail following the car. That's not an oversight, that's deliberate. Investigators noted how Suge made sure they were completely exposed, riding around making noise and drawing maximum attention in a city where he knew enemies were present. It's almost like he wanted Tupac to be an easy target. The witness statements get even more suspicious when you dig deeper. Multiple people reported seeing Suge duck down right before the shooting started, like he knew exactly what was about to happen. Meanwhile, Tupac was sitting up, completely unaware. After the bullet stopped, Suge had minor injuries while Tupac took fatal shots. The positioning doesn't add up unless someone had advanced knowledge of the attack. His behavior at the hospital raises more questions too, claiming they were laughing and joking when medical records prove Tupac was barely conscious. Why lie about something so easily disprovable unless you're trying to control the narrative? Russell Poole's investigation kept pointing to Suge orchestrating everything, then strategically framing gang members to throw police off track. The detective found too many connections between Suge and the shooters, financial trails that suggested payment for services rendered. When you combine that with how quickly Suge took complete control of Tupac's unreleased music catalog after his death, profiting massively from material Tupac never got to see released, the motive becomes crystal clear. What really stands out is how Suge has spent decades deflecting, pointing fingers at everyone else: Diddy, the Crips, East Coast rappers, anyone but himself. He's given countless interviews painting himself as the loyal friend who was right there with Tupac, suffering alongside him. But the evidence paints a different picture entirely. The forensic analysis, the financial records, the eyewitness accounts that were buried for years, they all suggest someone close to Tupac, someone with power and access, made calculated decisions that night, and that person had the most to lose from Tupac leaving Death Row Records. Law enforcement's building a case that's looking stronger every day, connecting dots that were ignored for 3 decades. The question isn't really if Suge Knight's involved anymore, it's whether prosecutors finally have enough solid evidence to bring charges that'll stick in court.